All right, we're rolling. Thanks for being here, Jacob.
Of course.
Yeah, man. So you have a podcast, and we were talking more about this before, but just tell me what your podcast is about and why you did it.
Yeah, so my podcast is called SuccessQuest. It's a podcast that I started with a good friend of mine.
Okay.
And, I mean, the name is pretty self-explanatory, but we talk about success. Mostly we try to get different perspectives of success. Because success is kind of a really broad term. It does. I mean, you can ask anyone on the street, like, what does success mean to you? And they're probably all going to give you a different answer.
Right.
And so that's what we talk about. We talk about success. We talk about business and entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
But mostly, for me, the podcast is just a tool to network with people, to get to know new people, to have conversations. I talk way too much, and so it's an outlet for me to talk a little bit. But
we were talking about that before. I talk way too much too. That's why I started a podcast, because I like asking questions. I like getting to know people, and then I like sharing my ideas and views with everybody. So I think, but we were talking about it before, about how a podcast is a great way to just get your word out there and brand. And that's what I was like, I want to give business owners that opportunity, because maybe they don't want to start a podcast, but maybe they would be willing to talk for an hour about their business.
Seriously. And I mean, I'm obviously biased, and obviously you are too. You have a podcast, I have a podcast. But I truly believe that a podcast is one of the best marketing tools, if not the best marketing tool. And there's multiple reasons for that, but for one, it's free networking.
Yeah, it really is, yeah.
My podcast has gotten me into so many doors. Even though doesn't have a whole lot of listeners, people don't really care. If I reach out to someone and say, "Hey, you want to be on my podcast?" They'll say yes. But if I reach out to someone and say, "Hey, can I pick your brain? I want 15 minutes. We'll jump on a call."
Yeah.
They say, "Who are you? Get away! I don't want to talk to you." But with a podcast, they'll sit down with me for an hour. They'll spill all their secrets. They'll tell me all about what success means. They'll tell me all about different tips and things. For me, it's an education tool. Yeah. But then on top of that, it's a marketing tool and it's a personal branding tool. And so I always tell people, even if you get one listener and you never get more than that, it's still worth it, because you get free education by being able to talk to other people. That's how I feel about podcasting.
I feel the exact same way. I sit down with some of these business owners who are a lot more successful than me, and I'm like, dude, people pay so much money for a business coach. Yeah. And they'll pay money for a mentor and a business coach to give you maybe not even as much knowledge. And if they do give you the knowledge, it's certainly not in a casual, they it's almost intimidating talking to a business owner who maybe owns, a multi, state company or something like that. Yeah. And those guys will charge you out the, sometimes they'll charge you out the wazoo for them, dude. And if you get them on a podcast, they'll talk forever and give you invaluable advice, dude. I agree. Yeah. My podcast has opened up a lot of doors. But let me ask you this: who was the coolest person you interviewed? Or somebody will be listening to this. But what was your favorite interview?
Yeah, my favorite. So the funny thing is, my favorite interview probably wasn't even one of the most well-known or most successful people, but he just gave some super, super valuable advice. And his name is Marco Yim, and he's basically a public speaking coach. Okay. That's what it was so interesting about it, is we talked about public speaking and how to get better at public speaking. Okay. And we talked about filler words, saying too much and things like that. And it was just, I really got into that conversation because I'm really interested in that. And as a podcaster, it's not the same as public speaking. You're not sitting in front of an audience of 1,000 people. Yeah. But a lot of those skills are very translatable. Yeah. You want to get better at not saying too many times, or being more concise on your words and being able to speak. I mean, that's a horrific example, right? I can't think of what I'm saying. Right. And so in that conversation, we were able to really talk about that, and he gave me really, really good advice. Wow. And we just talked about talking and how to sound better and how to be more professional. And one of the biggest insights that I got out of that is that he actually said not to edit out all the ums. Yeah. Because I had been before, but he said, here's the thing. Ums are actually a good thing to a certain threshold. Sure. He said up to a certain point, they actually make the conversation more authentic and more real.
Yeah.
He said once it passes a certain threshold and you're saying every 2 words, he said at that point it's distracting.
Sure.
And so he actually, I don't remember exactly what the number was, but he said per 100 words you want to have this many ums and it's okay, but if you have this many, it's too many.
Right.
According to research, and I was just, at that point, my podcast editing workflow got so much easier because I was less picky. I was like, you know what, this is a real conversation. I want to have real authentic conversations and I want it to sound authentic. So I'm not going to edit all this stuff out. I'll edit it out if it's excessive and if it's obvious, but I just want to make it real. You know?
Yeah. Well, I think it's super important. And I'm sure that he talked about like silence is golden, right? It's okay to pause when you talk. And a lot of people get really uncomfortable with that. Well, and that's I'm sure that's where the ums come from too. You know, so you're not okay with just like, okay, just take a breath. Silence is okay. Think about what you want to say. But I'm really interested in public speaking too, because I interview a lot of I've interviewed a lot of authors or people who are public speakers, and when they jump on a podcast, it's a little different talking to them, right? Like I'm sure he was a little bit different to talk to versus like him publicly speaking. Yeah. What did he normally speak about?
So he talks about public speaking, which is a little meta, but then he also does like interviewing, resumes, stuff like that. So mostly what he does is he helps people present themselves. Yeah. But man, that was a cool interview.
Yeah, that would have been a really cool interview.
It was one of the ones that I went back and listened to a couple times and took notes on. Even though I was there in person, it was like, okay, I need to hear this again.
Yeah. How did he tell you to get public speaking gigs?
Oh yeah. So he said the biggest thing, and I agree with him. I think this actually translates to all sorts of business because it worked for me too, on web design and not just public speaking. Yeah. But he said, just do it. Like, do it for free if you have to. Okay. Because you need to get that experience and that exposure and a portfolio, right? Yeah, right. So he said, reach out to local elementary schools or middle schools. Oh, wow. Go do it for free. Record yourself. He said that's the important thing, especially if you're doing it for free. Make sure that you bring a camera or something. Record yourself. That way you can make a reel, put it on your website, or put it on LinkedIn or another social network so that people can see that you're a good speaker. Right. He said the other great thing about recording yourself is then you can go back and become a better speaker. Right. Because you can watch yourself, you can see, okay, here's the annoying things I do, here's my weird tics, maybe I pace back and forth, or I put my hands in my pocket, or whatever it is that you do. And then he said you start eliminating those weird little tics, because everyone does them. You eliminate them slowly, one at a time. So he said each time you speak, just say, okay, this speech, I'm not putting my hands in my pocket. Yeah. You can pace as much as you want, but don't put your hands in your pocket. And then you just take it one at a time and slowly get better at speaking. So. Yeah.
So, but that's really cool because do it for free. What are you talking about at middle schools and elementary schools, man?
Dude, I don't know. I mean, I should have asked him that question. Quick question. Just off of my head though, I would probably talk about like lifelong learning. Maybe learning not for the test, but learning to learn. Yeah. Like I'm trying to just think of things that elementary schools and middle schools are struggling with.
You know what would be a good topic to talk about is how to do online learning. Dude, that's such a big deal right now. Like they so they're going from like all week, 5 days, right, to like 2. And it's really tough for some of these kids to hop on and learn math online because one of the biggest selling points for public school or schools in general is you can ask your teacher questions. You know what I mean? And now they don't have that opportunity, or they have very little opportunity. Yeah. You know what I mean? Anyway, because that's just a big deal. But you also are into businesses and helping businesses grow and working with the leaders in those businesses. So what made you interested in that?
Yeah, I mean, business, I don't know what it is. It's like a magnet. I just can't stay away from it. And even if I try, like, I get bored. I have to be doing something. I have to be working on something. And so I've always been interested in business. Yeah. When I was a teenager, I would sit down with my dad and we'd just talk about business ideas. Like that was our pastime together. That was how I spent time with my father. We chat about like different ideas or different products or different software we could make or whatever it is. And obviously, none of those ideas really ever became anything. We didn't really have money to invest in them, but that was just what we did for fun.
Yeah.
When I think I was 16, I actually started my own business. I decided that I wanted to become a reseller for wind turbines and solar panels and install them. And I got all excited. I actually purchased a wind turbine and I put it together, and I was so excited about this whole thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't sell one.
Oh,
like it was a classic failure, and that's okay. I think most businesses probably do fail, and especially when you're a teenager, you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
But I spent time marketing that business.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I built myself a website. I designed some business cards. I did a lot of that stuff, and that was so much fun. And admittedly, I probably spent too much time on like the creative side of it, and not actually thinking like, oh, how is this actually going to work out financially? How am I going to make money?
Yeah, yeah.
But I realized that I enjoyed it, and that I enjoyed marketing. I enjoyed branding, making websites.
Yeah.
And so at that point I realized, okay, I'm good at this. I like this. Let me kind of pursue that.
Yeah.
And so I started building websites for people, and similar to the conversation we just had about speaking, I did it for free, or I did it very, very cheap.
Yeah.
I reached out to family and friends and said, or my parents, my dad's an entrepreneur, he owns his own business. I said, hey, let me redesign your website for you.
Yeah.
I rebuilt his website. It was 10 times better than the one they had.
Oh, sweet.
Still wasn't great, especially to my standards now.
Yeah, sure.
But I built this website for him, and then he started referring me, and my friends and family started referring me. And slowly I was building $300 websites, which nowadays I'd be like, oh my goodness, $300. That's a steal. But I started small. I started building these websites, growing a portfolio. Yeah. And at this point, it's taken off to the point where I always have a project. I always usually have 3 or 4 different websites I'm building, and I'm not even doing all that much reach out. People are coming to me.
That's pretty sweet.
And it's still a side gig. I'm not doing it full time. That's kind of the next hurdle. I'm trying to figure out, okay, how do I quit my full time job and really dive into this? Yeah. And it's there. Like I see it at the end of the tunnel, but I just am passionate about building businesses and helping businesses grow with digital marketing. So
well, I think that's one of the most important places to focus on building a business is your digital footprint, right? Making sure you have a good website, making sure that it's easy to navigate, you know. Because I've been turned off to a lot of businesses that are local here because their website's hard to navigate. Like my bank. Dude, like the bank I use for my business, they're a great bank. They offer a great service, and if it wasn't for that, like the services that I get from the bank, I would totally leave them because their app sucks, their website sucks. And I'm like, dude, but so it just, and I wonder how many people are going there being like, this isn't easy enough for me to use online. Like I can't, you know what I mean? I can't do this every month or whatever.
Yeah, and specifically with banks, it's actually really funny because a lot of banks, you see new banks popping up all the time that are just apps, right? Right. And really, they're not even banks. They're just front ends to a bank. Like they build a nice, pretty app and website, but then they're partnering with a real bank in the background. Right. You see these fintech companies popping up all over the place, which is fascinating because real banks, their expertise is money. Right? Their expertise is loans and risk tolerance and figuring out, okay, well, this person's going to be able to pay that loan and this person's not. That's where their expertise is. Their expertise is not design. It's not branding. It's not app development. Right. And so you see these fintech companies who are saying, okay, we'll handle the pretty app, we'll handle the pretty website, and then we'll just partner with some big bank to actually keep the money for our people. Yeah.
Well, that's a great idea though, because you're right. Even the big national banks, their apps are not fun to use. I'm like, seriously, bro? We're in 2020. You can't make an app like that? You have all this money and you can't make an app like that? That's so crazy. So now, when you go through with businesses, what are some of the pieces of advice that you'll give a business owner to share on a website or to make their website effective?
Yeah, that is a marvelous question. I think the biggest question that you have to answer when you're trying to build a website is about the call to action.
Okay.
And before you even get there, you need to figure out who is your target audience.
Yeah.
Who are you trying to attract?
Yeah.
What service are you selling, and how is it attractive to that target audience? Because once you know that, you can create one really, really powerful call to action on your website.
Yeah.
And you should only have one on each page. So if I go to the home page of a site, there should be one clear action that I need to take.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have sign up for our email list here, or get our free ebook here, or create an account here, or if you want to see this, go here.
Yeah.
It should be very, very simple. It should be, hey, like, this is what we do, this is the value we can provide.
Yeah.
Click this button to learn more, or click this button to do this. But whatever that call to action is, you want to have one clear call to action.
Right. So like for an e-commerce website, it would be like shop now or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you click that button and it would take you to the aisle or whatever.
Yeah. Yep. I would say having a clear call to action is the most important thing, because I mean, I get it, because as a business you want to promote a lot of things, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I have that same tendency. Like, hey, listen to my podcast. Go sign up for a free consultation. Do this, do this, do this. But then people just get paralyzed with choice. Yeah. So you just want to decide, okay, what is the most important thing that someone does? Yeah. Maybe it's listen to the podcast. Once they listen to the podcast, in the podcast I can have another call to action. Yeah. So in the podcast I can say, this podcast is a free service, blah blah blah, but I also have a PDF that you can download. Go here and enter your email. So at that point, you're giving them another call to action, but it's another step of the puzzle. You want to just take them one step at a time through that funnel. Yeah. Because people just get confused, they get all over the place. You want to guide them where you want them to go. Yeah.
Oh man, that would be really hard for some entrepreneurs, I bet. Yeah. Is it hard? Do you find that it's the most?
I get a lot of pushback. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you really? Oh my goodness. Well, I could see that, because you're like, man, I really want them to sign up for my email thing, but I also want them to buy something. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it can be kind of, that can be kind of tough. Yeah, and if the end goal is to buy something, I mean, you can have, while they're checking out, they're probably putting in an email address, right? Yeah, you have to. So you can serve multiple purposes at once, but you just need to be very clear on what's your strategy. Yeah. Because if you're just building a website to build a website, and there's no strategy, there's no goals, I'm sorry, but that website's not going to perform. Yeah, well, right? You're right, yeah. Well, you said it earlier, analysis paralysis. Like, if there's too many things going on, either you're only going to get one, or you're going to get none, right? Mm-hmm. And the chances of you getting none are probably higher than someone unless someone like really like, hey, I've been here before, I've been to this website before, I know this product, like this, I know exactly where I'm going, right? Yeah, which is not, well, I mean, you already have those people. Right, and so you want to keep them coming back, but then you want to get the new people into the funnel, right?
Yeah, and what I would say is, if you want to market a lot of things, do that not necessarily on the homepage of your website. Yeah. Do that on all the things that are outside of the website. So podcasting, social media content, blog posts, all of these things, and then that pushes them to the website, which then becomes your main call to action. That's what I would say. If you want to push a lot of things, that's not a problem. Make a YouTube channel. Right. Make a podcast. Like, do all this stuff. Yeah. But point them towards your website, which then has one call to action. Yeah, which is like, whatever. Mm-hmm. Buy my thing, sign up for my thing, or whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. Have you experienced a lot of more e-commerce businesses online with your web development, or like service businesses? Mm-hmm. Or? Yeah, and this isn't necessarily indicative of what's actually out there. Yeah. Because I think there's a lot more e-commerce businesses, but I have worked with them very little, actually. Yeah. I built a couple e-commerce websites, but for the most part, what I work with is service businesses. Service guys. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. So how did you learn how to build websites? Where did you learn it? Yeah. So originally it was for my own business. Yeah. And I started out. I kind of hesitate to say this, but I started out with like one of those website builders like Weebly, Oh yeah. Like just figuring it out that way. But then I kind of went under the hood and figured out, like, how does this actually work? Yeah, like the code and stuff? Yeah, I started learning HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I ended up getting a computer science degree. Oh, cool. And now my specialty is custom web development. So I don't work with templates really. I build from the ground up a custom website for you. So. Yeah, we had a guy who built our website for my CBD business.
And he just built it from scratch, which I thought was really impressive. Mm-hmm. That's really hard to do. I've learned, I've like looked at coding and stuff like that because I'm just interested. Yeah. But then I realized like it was not for me because that is very intricate. Right? Yeah, I mean, and there's tools that you can use. One of the tools that I'm a huge fan of is called Webflow. Yeah. So Webflow. Okay. I mean, any listener who's interested in web development, look it up. It's a complicated enough tool that you need to understand at least the basics of coding. Sure. It's not templates. It's not drag and drop. Sure. You have to understand what you're doing, but it makes that coding 10 times faster. Okay. So basically what it is it's a visual coding environment which will let you build the HTML and CSS way faster than typing it out. Yeah. So if you're interested, go take a look at Webflow. It's really awesome. But you do have to at least have a basic understanding of the code in order to get Webflow. But you can also do it in reverse. You can use a tool like Webflow to learn the code underlying. So But yeah, I think, I mean, at the end of the day, nothing against WordPress, nothing against Weebly or Squarespace or any of these different website builders. Right. But they're just bloated. I mean, they are. You download a WordPress theme, and it's got so much stuff in there that you're probably not going to use. Right. Because the themes are kind of made for multi-purpose, and you might have a blog, you might have an e-commerce store, you might have all these things. Yeah. So they put all this functionality into the theme, but you're probably only going to use about 10% of it. Right. And so you have all this extra bloat of code that your website isn't even using. And I'm not saying WordPress isn't a great tool. It is. Right. And I have built websites in WordPress. I've built websites in Shopify. I've used a lot of these tools. But at the end of the day, I just like being able to build something that's... You can have control over it. I have exactly what's going on. You know exactly where everything's at. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why we ended up going with a guy who we brought on who he was like, I just want to have control over it. Like I know where everything's at, and if there's a problem, I know where it could be coming from. Now the one downside of that, because there is a downside, is that can get you stuck. Oh, well, just because, I mean, if I build your website, and I built it from scratch, like I'm the only one who knows how to do everything on it, and people are afraid of that. They're afraid of getting locked in, saying, hey, if I ever want to change something, now I have to go back to this dude. And so that is a potential problem. Whereas if you build a WordPress website, there's 1,000 people out there who can go in. I mean, you can go to Fiverr.com or Upwork and like find a WordPress quote-unquote expert. That you'll pay like $25 an hour and they can work on your site. So that is a potential pitfall. So it is something... I mean, I recommend if you're looking to get a custom website made, there's so many benefits, but be willing to invest in the relationship with that web developer and think of it as a partnership. That's how I like to think of my clients. Like, I'm not the type of guy that's going to come in here, build you a website, and then leave you. I'm the type of guy, I like to think of myself as like a business growth consultant. You know? Like, I'm going to be in here for the long haul. We're going to work together to grow your business. Like I'll bring in ideas. We can update your website. We can make changes. We can think about strategies. We can think about, hey, let's actually now start a podcast and start using that podcast to drive people to the website. Like I'm going to sit down with you. We're going to talk about your business. We're going to figure out how to grow it, and we'll help you implement those changes. You know what I like that you brought up one call to action per source, right? So like Facebook or like social media has one call to action that drives you to another call to action. You know what I mean? I really like that idea. But here's what I'm really interested in now that we talked about is something that you mentioned earlier, and that was all the ideas that you went over with your dad about. So what were some of the ideas that you went over with your dad? So the biggest one. And I still think it's a good idea, but I think we're too late. Okay. It was such a good idea at the time, though, and we should have done it. If we had like $10 million, we would have. Well, if anybody had $10 million, we would have to do a lot more things. So the idea, my dad owns a hotel. Okay. It's a small boutique, little inn that he owns. It's about 21 rooms. Okay. And the biggest problem that he had was check-in. Because people would arrive at 2 a.m. sometimes. And I mean, it's part of doing business, right? He gets up, he gets them checked in, he gets them a key, they go to their room, everything. But as we saw technology coming, he had this idea to put smart locks on all the doors.
And to be able to have a smartphone app that they could download, and when they get to the hotel, they don't even have to come to the front desk. They just go straight to their room, and they use their smartphone app to open the door, and it checks them in, it pays, it does everything. Yeah. Now, this is already happening with Airbnb.
Yeah, I would imagine, yeah.
Airbnb has partnered with smart lock systems, and basically this exists, right? Like, you don't even have to see the owners of the place. You sign up on Airbnb, you get there, maybe they text you a code or whatever, you use that on the door lock, you never see the owners, and you have this really seamless experience.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking even like a QR code. So you scan a QR code to your phone, it brings up the website, you look up your reservation, check in, you know, and then you just, well, I mean, real estate agents have that too, right? They like, when I was
we were about 10 years early, but it's already happening. And my dad and I are like, hey, that was our idea. We had that idea about 15 years ago.
I still think you could make it a really good idea, especially with like QR codes. Those are, I feel like those are really underutilized. Yeah. What do you think?
No, I agree. I think that, I mean, QR codes have existed for a long time.
They have, yeah.
But it's only been within the last couple of years. I don't remember exactly when, but Apple actually incorporated the QR code scanning into the native camera app. So you didn't have to download a separate app. I think Android's done that for a while. Yeah. But it was only like 2 or 3 years ago that happened.
Right.
And I was like, okay, at this point, QR codes are going to go mainstream. Like, they're going to be everywhere.
Yeah.
I still don't see them.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and you heard it here first. But like, I really believe that QR codes are where like a lot of this is going. I mean, it's kind of already going there. Like, Apple Pay and Android Pay are essentially these codes that when we put our phones closer together, they know what. There's only one thing it does.
Yeah, NFC.
And that's pay for whatever is on there, right? And so when we were doing our e-commerce business, they told us for a long time that we should put QR codes on our labels, so that if somebody was like, oh, they ran out of a bottle of something, turn the bottle around, scan the QR code, it takes us to not only does it take them to the website, it pulls them onto the page with that product. Yeah. All they do is hit buy, and then there's an almost like automatic shipping, or like a subscription. That's what I meant to say, subscription. But like not really, you know. I just think QR codes are really underutilized.
Yeah, you're speaking my language right now, man. And it's the same thing. Like, have you seen those Amazon Dash buttons?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a similar idea. You put this little button right next to your washer and dryer, and then when you run out of laundry detergent, you press this button, and it's ordered. Like, you'll get it in a couple days. And I'm just like mind blown. Like, these simple ideas, they're very simple things, but they can really make a business. I mean, if you think of Amazon, like, anyone who thinks of shopping thinks of Amazon now. Oh yeah. They've become the Kleenex of shopping. Like, if you're gonna go buy something, you don't even search the internet anymore. You go straight to Amazon instead of Google. And so it's all about simplicity. I mean, the reason Amazon has gotten there is because they've been able to streamline the logistics so well that you can get whatever you want to get within 2 days. I mean, with COVID-19, that's kind of been disrupted. I mean, it's taking a week or so sometimes. But the fact that they've just been able to streamline. So I think in business, in any business, it's all about just finding, okay, where are the rough edges where people get knocked off? How can we streamline those edges? How can we get rid of that? How can we make it simpler? So having a really simple, cleanly designed website with a clear call to action, and then having all these marketing tools, podcasts, YouTube channels, blog content, whatever that is, pointing people to that funnel. It's all just about streamlining. How do I get one person from not even knowing who I am to them liking me, trusting me, purchasing from me, becoming a loyal customer of me, telling their friends. It's all about just bringing them along that path to try to get them to become a loyal fan of yours. Yeah, that's really cool. So in your podcast, you talk with a lot of business owners, but you also, I've seen you on Connect Utah, on social media, but telling people to make a podcast. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so cool. Well, and I help, I've had a couple of people on here who've gone, who've been a guest on my podcast and gone and made their own podcast, and I feel like that's such a good idea. To be honest, I started this podcast after I was on an episode of a podcast.
I was on the Damage Plan MMA podcast where we talked about just some
cool.
fights, because I like UFC and MMA, and that's our whole podcast. And a really good buddy of mine owns it, Jason Laporte and Zach Partridge are the hosts of it, and they do a tremendous job. But yeah, that's why I did it, and I just thought it was such a cool idea that, because people are like, what am I going to podcast about? Well, like whatever you want, dude. Yeah, whatever you want to talk about. Just get on and start talking. Just record it. Like Gary Vaynerchuk. Are you familiar with him?
Yeah.
He just says document. Don't create, document.
Yeah.
And so that's what I tell people. Like, what should we do? And I'm just like, I don't know. Go buy one of those $70 handheld voice recorders, and every time you start having a good idea, just turn it on.
Mm-hmm.
I have one of those. I do it in my car all the time.
Yeah.
I'll pull it out of my backpack and I'm like, I have this idea, and I'll record it, and then I'll go back and listen to it and turn it into something.
Yeah. Well, and we already talked about some of the benefits of podcasting, obviously the networking component, but the other benefit of podcasting is that it creates content.
Yeah.
And we live in a world, I'm sure you've heard of content marketing.
Yeah.
Where the idea behind content marketing is you create content that provides value.
Right.
So you're not selling. I don't go on my podcast and say, "Hey guys, I make websites. Go over to my website and buy something from me."
Yeah.
Because then obviously I'll lose listeners first of all because they don't care.
Yeah.
They don't want to get my website. But if I create value for them first.
Yeah.
So I talk about business ideas. I talk about entrepreneurship. I talk about whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I create value.
Yeah.
Then here's what happens. They associate me and my business with value.
Yeah.
And they start following me. They start listening to me.
Right.
They subscribe to the podcast. They look at my website. And what happens is people don't usually purchase immediately.
Right.
It's very rare for someone to figure out about a product and immediately go buy it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And usually that's with smaller ticket items. Like if you're in the store, you see something and it's like $1, then you purchase it. But with higher ticket things like website design or marketing or business growth consulting, these are the types of things that people don't just purchase because you say, "Hey, I do this thing." Right. They don't care. They don't care that you build websites.
Yeah,
what they care about is, do I like this person?
Yeah.
Do I trust this person? Does this person have knowledge in the area of marketing?
Yeah.
Do I feel like they can actually help my business?
Yeah.
And that process is a long process.
Yeah.
They might listen to 10 episodes of me talking about business and entrepreneurship before they say, "Oh, this Jacob guy actually kind of knows what he's talking about."
Right, yeah.
I actually like this guy. Like, maybe I should work with him.
Yeah.
And so the idea of content marketing is you create content that provides value.
Yeah.
And over time, it's very much an investment.
Yeah.
People will come and purchase from you because they come to know, like, and trust you.
Yeah.
And so with podcasting, you are creating so much content.
Yeah.
So much. You record a 40-minute episode. You can break that 40-minute episode into 2-minute clips.
Right.
You can turn it into social media posts. Like, I do this all the time. I'll have an awesome conversation, and I'll immediately re-listen to it and then type it out. And maybe not word for word, but I'll type out the essence of what we talked about and post that on LinkedIn.
Yeah, man.
and so you create all this content from this very easygoing conversation, which then gets people to know you, like you, trust you, come to you, and then eventually they purchase from you.
Yeah.
And so it's a long game, but it's, in my opinion, the correct way to sell.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think definitely sales, they've gotten to the point where, like, anything that has a lot of value that is maybe a higher ticket item, it does take a minute to sell. And a lot of people don't understand that. Like, I've been in sales for a really long time, and it's very rare that I'll have a sell on the same day. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I've sold, like, big ticket items, you know? And so, and you have to give a lot of things away. You have to provide a lot of value. You have to show people that you know what you're talking about, and most of the time you got to do that, on social media and not charge for it.
Mm-hmm.
But the best part about that is you can show me all your cool websites. you can do all these things, and I'm loving it. And you can tell me about WordPress and all these things. But the crazy thing about that is I've tried. Go to Wix, go to WordPress, and I can't figure it out.
Yeah.
So what's funny is like, even when you give me that stuff, like on social media in a post for free, like I'm like, oh dude, he told me to do that, but I have questions, and now who am I going to go back to? Because I saw it, you gave me the advice, and now I have questions, right?
Yeah. Well, and a lot of business owners are afraid of giving away things for free.
Yeah.
Especially if they're in an industry like coaching.
Yeah.
I've talked to business coaches who are like, I can give advice on social media for free. That's what people pay me for, is advice.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, you've got it backwards.
Yeah, you've got it backwards.
You give away
really
all of your advice. I don't, like, even if you give away every secret in your entire book, give it away.
Yeah.
Because then what happens is people will start following you for free coaching on your social media feed or on your podcast or whatever. But then when they need it personalized, when they have an issue in their life or in their business or in whatever, they need to actually talk to you.
Yeah.
Even if you've already given the advice out for free, they need somebody who can personalize it and cater it to their situation.
Right, and then they come back to you because they
trust you. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. You know, I was talking to another business owner yesterday, in fact, and we were talking about this idea where, you know, she is a massage therapist. Actually, she's on the podcast, Katie Weninger, and she was like, you know, I gave these massages away for free and never saw them again. And so we agreed in that instance. Yeah. We agreed in that instance that you know, the free in that case wasn't great. But you know, but what we ended up agreeing on was you got to do free the right way. You know what I mean? You got to do free like constructively. You know what I'm saying? Because free can be really beneficial, and free can also like be mooches coming. You know.
Absolutely, and that's why like. It definitely does depend on your product.
Yeah.
My experience is mostly with service providers.
Sure.
And so, like a physical product, if you give away, like, if, for example, if I'm selling a book and I give away a book, like they already have the book, are they going to buy it again? Maybe not. They might share it with their friends and family, you know? Like there's still some benefit.
But you have to do it the right way. Yeah, you got. But I think that was the point you were, you know, we agree on. Is you just got to do free the right way. Like what she does do though is she'll post on her Instagram and her Facebook ways to like feel healthier, right? And what massage benefits there are. And then people will, you know what I mean? And then she'll do like customer reviews and other business reviews, and people like will trust her, and then they'll go to her for a massage. And I feel like that's a really good way to do that.
Yeah. And the other thing, I mean, you mentioned mooches.
Yeah, right.
Man, this is a problem in business.
Yeah.
Like, you will do business with people who don't want to pay you.
Yeah.
They don't want to pay your rates. They aren't willing to pay what you're worth.
Yeah.
But then they're the hardest customers.
Oh,
like they're so picky.
Yeah.
And sometimes the people who are willing to pay higher rates are actually the most chill and laid back customers.
Yeah.
And so, actually, what I would argue is that giving stuff away for free is also a way to combat that. Yeah. So here's what you do on your website. Yeah. You know how people have those pricing columns where they say, okay, it's $5 a month for this plan, $10 a month for this plan, $20 for this plan. What you do is you say free. Yeah, right. And you say, if you don't want to pay me, I get it. Like, I'm expensive, I'm an expert in my field. Yeah. I cost a lot of money. Yeah. If you don't want to pay me, if you can't afford me, whatever, here are free resources for you. Go listen to my podcast. Yeah. Go read my blog. Do this, do this, do this. Yeah. And have a huge list there. Say, I want to help you out. Yeah. Here are the resources. If you're willing to pay my rates and you need like expert advice or you need my services, then here's what I offer. Right. But I'm pretty straight on that price. Like, I'm not going to handle with you. I'm not going to bring it down because I'm an expert. And this is what my price is. Right. You know? And so if you frame it correctly, you can actually also save yourself a lot of headache from those typical clients. And then when they call you and you say, hey, it's X amount of dollars, and they say, oh, well, I don't know. Yeah. Say, that's okay, I get it. Yeah. So here's some free resources. Yeah. Like,
you can go listen to my podcast.
You can go listen to my podcast.
Videos, yeah.
A couple months down the road, like when you're making a little more money, when you can afford me, like, let's have another conversation. Like, I get it. And that's why I provide all this stuff for free. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, if you do it the right way, free can be very beneficial for you. Yeah. I really appreciate that. So what are other big lessons that you've learned from like your business podcast? And what's your podcast called again?
SuccessQuest.
That's right.
Yeah. I think having genuine conversations with people. Yeah. One of the biggest things is I feel like in podcasting, there's a lot of push to monetize.
Yeah.
And throw ads on your show and make money from it.
Right.
We felt that pressure. We experimented with it. And I'm not saying it's wrong. Like, you can monetize your podcast.
Yeah.
Do it. Especially, like, if you have a sponsor come to you, man, like, don't say no.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, I appreciate that.
But I would say, like, if you're getting into podcasting to make money,
yeah.
I mean, I still encourage you to get into podcasting.
Yeah.
But if your purpose is to make money, directly,
well,
probably, like, it's a long, hard road.
Well, that's very long.
Yeah. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort.
Yeah.
Eventually, you will get there. Like, people like Joe Rogan are making millions of dollars a year on podcasting. I mean, Spotify bought him for, I don't remember how many. I want to say like 200 million, but I might be wrong there.
Well, I don't think they ever came out with like a real number. I don't think a real number was ever released. I think it was like the Wall Street Journal came out and speculated like, this is what we think. We talked to our financial analyst and this is what they estimate. Yeah. But I don't think they ever came out with a
there is money in podcasting.
Yeah.
But don't get into it for the money.
Right.
At least not directly. In my opinion, a podcast is a perfect lead generation tool and a trust tool. Yeah. Personal branding tool. But it's probably not going to make a lot of money directly. For me, it makes money and it gets my name out there. It gets people learning about me, knowing about me. And then they go over to my marketing business, right? Or they want to start a podcast and so I can do podcast production or podcast strategy sessions. So, like, I don't know, like, that's one of the biggest things is I think a lot of people see podcasts as like, oh, a great moneymaker.
It's not a really...
Be careful.
Yeah, well, it's not a great moneymaker at the front. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, a lot of people, if you don't have the right amount of listeners, it's not going to work. No. Anyway. Like,
and you can get there. I'm not saying you can't. Like, you can't.
Sure. Yeah,
it's just like a YouTube channel.
Right.
I mean,
it just takes a long time.
Everyone starts a YouTube channel at some point in their life, probably. Or at least the people that are like us, that are like, business-minded, like, eventually start a YouTube channel. Yeah. 99%, probably even more. I don't know the real statistic, but the majority fail. I mean, they're not going to make money, right? Right. But there's YouTubers out there making millions of dollars a year.
Yeah, you just got to work on it.
I mean, you can do it, but just understand what it's good for and what it's not good for, and be realistic. Because I think, I tell people, start a podcast. And they're like, oh, okay, I'm going to go make $1 million. And well, I'm not saying you can't. Yeah. But I would think of the podcast in its other benefits, the networking benefits, the branding benefits, the marketing benefits.
Yeah. Well, because and here's why I think you're right. When you start focusing on the money too much, you will burn out very quickly because it's not going to come right away.
No, it's not.
Yeah. I mean, years, I would say.
Yeah, I agree.
Unless you have like some crazy influencer who just immediately has 1 million followers and starts putting your stuff out there, which is not realistic either. But
I mean, it can happen. It does.
Yeah. But I'm a pragmatic person. I'm very pragmatic. So I wouldn't bet on it. Mm-hmm. I'm not. Yeah, you're right. I'm not saying it would never happen. I just wouldn't put my money on it.
Yeah, and it's still worth it. Do it. Like if you're listening and you want to start a podcast, do it. And call me. I'll give you free advice.
Yeah, do it for why you love it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
exactly.
Be realistic about it. And think about the benefits other than money. Yeah. Otherwise, you will burn out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and then to circle back on my point, right, is like just do it because you love it. Like I love talking to people, and if money comes,
great.
Yeah, sweet. If money comes, sweet. But like, you know, I'm an accountant, so I believe in sunk costs, and so, which means like that I'm probably not gonna, you know, the money that I put into my podcast, I'm assuming that I'm not gonna get that back. Yeah. And if you're okay with that, then you're in a really good spot to be like, to just power through and love what you do. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, okay, last question. Is there anything that we didn't go over that you thought we should go over that you maybe want to tell some listeners?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
So I over the course of my podcast, like I always ask people, what does success mean to you? Uh-huh. And so I think maybe we could talk about success a little bit. Okay. I've thought a lot about success.
Okay. Yeah,
we've done over 70 episodes. Cool. At the beginning, I had what I thought success meant, and now I'm in a completely different place. Wow. And it probably is going to change over the course of the next year. Yeah. But I think, like, it's a good question to ask yourself. Like, what does success mean to me? And what does when is success enough? Yeah. Because I think a lot of times, like, if I make $100,000, I'll be successful. Yeah. And then you make $100,000 and you're still not happy.
Well, and you realize that $100,000 is not really a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. And then it's like, okay, once I make $1 million a year, I'll be happy. Okay. And then you make $1 million, and it's still not enough. And then you want 20 million. And I mean, money's great. Yeah. It is. Like, don't get me wrong. I want to make a lot of money in my life. Yeah. And I want to be financially stable, and I want to be financially successful. Yeah. But if you're not enough without the money, and if you're not happy without the money, you're not going to be happy with it.
Interesting.
And I've talked to so many different people, and I've gotten that perspective so many times. I've talked to millionaires. I've talked to people that run these huge corporations, and they all tell me, hey, you're not going to be happy once you have money. Yeah. Like, you can be happy with money. I'm not saying I'm not saying money equals sadness, but you have to be able to be happy without it first. Because success is really the culmination of so many other things. It's not all financial, but it's social. Like, do you have friends? Do you have family? Do you have support systems? Yeah. Are you emotionally stable? Like, are you dealing with any sort of mental illnesses or anything like that? And then so there's like the emotional, there's the social side of it. There's the physical side. Like, are you healthy? Are you taking care of your body? And that's admittedly something that I need to work more on. Sure. And so, like, there's all these different factors. And so I've gotten to the point where I view success not as making a lot of money or achieving a specific goal. Sure. But I view success as constant improvement and getting better each day on all of these different areas of my life. And I think balance is a lie. Yeah. I don't think there really is such a thing as like work-life balance or perfect balance, but I do think that you can be constantly adjusting things. Yeah. And you can constantly improve and become better. And so to me that's what success is. It's improvement. It's working towards something and getting better each day.
I like that. How did your definition of success change? What did you think it was at first?
Well, so at first if you listen to like the very first episodes of SuccessQuest, we have a similar thing, because we did divide success into these different categories, like physical, emotional, and we were like, let's try to be successful in a bunch of areas. But I think like really, really just hit home to me when I was talking to these people that had everything. I think I was lying to myself. I think I thought that, success is being balanced. Success is being... But in the back of my mind, it's like, I want to make a lot of money. Like, I want to make $1 million business or whatever. Right. And so I think it's just really hit me that, like, I need to be happy now. And I feel like I am. Yeah. Obviously, there's days where I'm not. Sure. Like, there's days where I'm like, man, I hate my job, or I really want to do this, or I want my marketing business to go full time. Like, I have those days. But then when I think about it, I'm like I have an awesome life, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I like what you said there, because sometimes I'll ask business owners what they think success is. And they'll have different answers, but I really like that the majority of the time what they're saying is growth and continued learning, and like success is an everyday thing. It's not a you've reached success, like it's not a finish line. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Wow, dude, that's really good. So tell me where people can find, if they wanted to look up your services, if they wanted to look up your podcast, like where do they go?
Yeah. So if you want to look at our podcast, obviously you're in a podcast app right now. Yeah. Go just click on the search button and search for SuccessQuest. Okay. You'll find a picture of me and my partner, and we're doing that. If you want to find my marketing agency, you can go to JMH .media. So instead of .com, it's .media. Okay. But really the best place, if you just want to connect with me, go to LinkedIn. I'm super active on LinkedIn. Cool. I post there at least 2 or 3 times a week, trying to practice what I preach, give some real value. At least I hope it's valuable. Right. But I try to give free advice out as much as I can. Yeah. Feel free to connect with me there. Text me, DM me, do whatever. I'm happy to talk. So.
Right on. Well, I really appreciate you willing to talk to me and taking your time to be here. And I hope that, I wish you all the best in your podcasting and in your business. And I look forward to continuing to to work with you, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's great to meet you, and I'm definitely going to be following you in your podcast. Like, dude, you're doing a lot better than me in a lot of ways. Like, I see a posting on Connect Utah, and I'm like, man, I should be more like this guy. So.
Dude, I appreciate it. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, man. That was fun.